The overall Star Wars arc has been so much about revolution. And we watched the first movies and it was like, okay, here's the rebellion. Here's where it started. And then with Rogue One, you said, okay, no, this is actually kind of where it started. And I like that Andor is like, okay, you thought it started there. Here's where it started 5 years earlier. When did you decide after Rogue One that there was a story that you wanted to tell beyond that, that involved these characters and this build-up?
It's really simple. They wanted to do all kinds of things after Rogue One. Lucasfilm's fortunes changed, with the economy, with every other thing. They wanted to do a show, but streaming wasn't there. There wasn't money to really make a Star Wars show. They tried a couple times, but it's really hard to do this. It's, it takes a big gamble. You can't do Star Wars cheap. You can't half-ass it. It's like you can't do James Bond at low rent. You got to do it. So the meeting of the moment had to be when the economics and the idea could meet. And the idea was always, wow, give us these 5 years. Let's take this character back to the point where he's a roach crawling out of a hole. Let's pick him up on the worst day of his life, and let's see if we can get him over 5 years to turn him into the guy who was in Rogue One. That'll be interesting. And that was the conversation. It was much more about the character than it was about. And then they give you those 5 years that are mine. I get those 5 years. That's my area, and no one's going to mess with that. So that's what we have. So we have 5 years to curate, and we know all about those 5 years, what we can do, what we can't do. But it's more about the character.
And so now, when did you become involved here?
Well, I became involved really when Tony Gilroy became involved in this and started, when he had a first outline and was, embarking on this, big journey to write it all. And we had a breakneck speed kind of roller coaster ride of a pre-production period. It was always ambitious, and then we were hit by COVID and slightly stumbled and suspended and worked our way through coming back out of it with a show that was not necessarily the most COVID-friendly show in the world. It's big, with a huge ensemble cast and a lot of extras, and it took a lot of riffing and kind of seeing how can we come back safe. And we were lucky enough to have amassed an extraordinary team that by the time we were suspended, really were all determined to see this through and had really caught Tony's bug and Tony's vision, and we knew we had to bring it to the screen against many odds, and we were really blessed because it was hard times and pure determination and making sure we're not giving up that got us in the end to what you have seen on the screen.
Tony, I think you articulated something very interesting and specific about the show, that on one hand, it's obviously a Star Wars show, it's obviously a big show, but it's a ground level show in a way that I don't think the Star Wars franchise has ever done before. It's simultaneously, there are giant spaceships flying overhead, but it's people in the street, and they're getting dirty and they're getting messy. For the actors, I'm curious, what was the balance between this feeling like a big show, a huge show, a franchise show, and then the part of it that maybe felt like an indie movie, a smaller story?
I'll just say one thing about it, because Zahn and I have to spend an enormous amount of our time convincing people that they should be in Star Wars. Like, you would think that a lot of people would want to be involved in Star Wars, but they don't. A lot of the people that we want to be involved with, so we spend a great deal of our time. We have. Hopefully, I think we're near the end of that. But and we double team them. She does them, and then I do them, and then, oh, it's really going to be cool. And so we do a lot of that. A lot of people, I'll look at one up there, right there. I don't think she wanted anything to do with us in the beginning. And Andy, I chased for a long time. Andy, he always wanted it. He just wanted to be begged. But the other the sidebars, when we get people, then we have to convince them to not. We've had a lot of great, and man, this is speech. It's literally by rote, because I've talked to hundreds of actors. The pregame speech. Oh, welcome to the show, and so happy you're here. And do not change your game to be in our show. You are here because you are great. Do not act the costume. Do not act the show. we have had, before we figured out what we were doing, we had great actors show up in the first couple months and lose their shit and start to play the costume and, you know, and like, pretend you're in the Ken Loach movie that we hired you for, you know? That's why you're here. So it's kind of it's a job that we have to, we do it all the time, in every department.
Yeah, it really, you know, this journey of finding the DNA of Andor and what it was a really exciting one, and also quite a clear path in the end. And we needed people that are very respectful of the franchise, because that is really the key of all of it. And yet also be really truthful of what Andor was and what DNA we developed, and be daring with us and challenge and question and dare to move forward and really, you know, bring that reality to the screen and not, you know, assume, you know, it is what it always was, or, you know, it was a very interesting journey, and you know, just finding the right HODs that really, and we were blessed to go on this journey, and we of course have a lot of expertise in our large crew that have previous Star Wars experience and bring enormous expertise to our action vehicles and prop making, and oh my god, there's so many departments, but we also really amassed people that looked at Star Wars, you know, afresh and through the eyes of Andor and discovered it that way, and I was one of them, and that was a really exciting journey to go on, and yes, not always easy.
It takes a mix. It takes the mix, you know? And with no cynicism, we want to take it more seriously than anybody ever took it before. So there's no cynicism in our decision. We're not slumming, you know? We're here for real.
So for the actors, when in this process did it feel like you were making a part of the biggest multi-zillion-dollar franchise in the world, and when did it feel like you were making the Ken Loach movie of this?
Well, I think what it felt like was always felt authentic, and that's something that, you know, we live in a world of, you know, algorithms telling us what to do and what to make and how to present material and how to, you know, this didn't feel like that at all. It felt from the off very analog, and that's the beauty of it. It feels, everything's tangible, everything's real, everything's grounded. The sets were all built. You know, there wasn't a sense of, you know, trying to. It just always felt authentic, and I think that's. I think we've been so terrified about being authentic as filmmakers and you know, writers at the moment are. You know, you have to fit a mold, you have to fit a market, you have to do it for this particular audience, you have to hit, you know, and it's like, this feels like it's just telling a story for real, and I really responded to that, and so always felt in safe hands, and always felt like it was something tangible.
Diego or Fiona?
Yeah, I'm going to pass it to Fiona first, because she has to unmute.
Right, well, many things there. Zana was like a Marva Andor herself when we got to Pinewood, because she made that really dark month of January and February of 2020 bearable by her bonhomous welcome and her incredible ease, even when we were all terrified. And we had Tony speaking to us from New York. So it was a bit like being in another universe, but also that the universe of the piece is about a moral universe. And the genius of Tony and his writing is that all the heroes are reluctant heroes. Either they're prisoners who are escaping, or a woman who just wants to, you know, run her business in Ferrix, who's forced to get her son to wake up. It's the reluctance of it that makes it really easy to identify with as an ordinary person.
I would add that I'm going to say a few things. First of all, I think we also owe a little bit to Rogue One, you know, and not just what Rogue One is, but what Tony brought there and what started there. You know, it's different times. That was long ago, but it was taking risks too, and he was bold, you know, and there was a character like Cassian Andor that had a weird accent, looked different, and happened to be the guy that at the end, you know, sacrifices everything, and you go like, really? Is that going to be the guy? I thought he was gonna die, like in the second act. That's when those guys die, and then someone goes like, "Shit! Do something about it." You know? It didn't happen that way. So I think, I mean, we have to understand where this character comes from, you know, and therefore, if it was going to be Tony Gilroy, he was just going to take it even further, right? And we were all here because of that possibility, because there was a seed there. And I would say when you say like, when do you feel you're doing Star Wars? It's like when you talk about a deal, you know, with an agent or a lawyer, and shit, you have to read those 400 pages. You clearly, you're heading into something that deserves some advice and thinking, and you cannot just get drunk and go like, yeah, man, let's do the theater play. Yes, of course, I'm there tomorrow. No, you gotta go. Okay. And the secrecy, you don't have to be quiet about something you love, you know, like, I'm gonna do a theater play, what am I gonna, like, people is not gonna come to see it, they won't come either, I mean, even if I talk about it, you know? So, clearly here, that's different, but I would say that that's it, because we also have to agree that we were given so much freedom to actually execute this thing, and we were there every day, and we had the resources, and we had the stages, and we had the time, and every day was like, really, is this gonna keep going like this, or you know, one day the light's gonna come on, and it's like, enough, guys, okay, here's the new script, here's the new writer, and move away, here's the new actor, you know, but no, we got to the point where we were talking about our show as if we were talking about a tiny little project we wanted to do together. And it's been like that from scratch. It's been beautiful, you know, it's gonna spoil at least me.
Yeah, it's been extraordinary, the support and the freedom that, you know, we had to kind of get on with this and bring it to the screen, definitely.
Okay, gonna go down one more avenue and then I will try to